You know what's the scariest thing in a marriage? Not betrayal, not fights, but the moment someone stops seeing you. This is Marina's story. She stood in the middle of a living room full of guests, holding a glass of champagne. Her hand trembled slightly. And in that moment, she said everything, calmly, almost gently, looking straight at her husband. After those words, the room went so quiet, you could hear the clock ticking on the wall. My name is Marina, and this story didn't start with a fight or a breakdown. It started with one offhand remark her husband made without thinking, just like that, because he was used to it. We had been together for 9 years. When I look back at those 9 years now, I can't say it was all bad. In the beginning, it wasn't. Daniel knew how to be attentive. He knew how to notice me. I remember 3 months into dating, he showed up at my door at 1 a.m. just because I texted that I was feeling down. He didn't call, he didn't reply, he just came. He brought tangerines because it was winter and because he knew I loved them. I thought, this is a person who knows how to show up. I wasn't wrong back then. Then came the wedding. Then came Ethan. Then came everything people call family life, which turns out to be not one big event, but 1,000 small daily choices. Who gets up with the baby at night? Who remembers they're out of pasta? Who books the doctor? Who picks up from daycare? Who irons the shirts? Who pays the electricity bill? Daniel was building his career. That mattered, and I understood it. I worked too, not in a senior role, but I worked, and I liked it. But somewhere between year 3 and year 5, something happened that I couldn't find words for. I suddenly realized I had become invisible, not to strangers, to him. Not harshly, not cruelly, just like furniture. Like a fridge that's supposed to stay full. Like a washing machine that's supposed to run. Assumed. Requires no thanks. Never gets tired. Psychologists call this emotional neglect. When a partner is physically present, but stops truly seeing the other person. Research shows that feeling invisible, not conflict, not infidelity, is what around 40% of women cite as the primary reason they ended their marriage. Marina didn't know that statistic. She was simply living inside it. His mother, Margaret, lived about 30 minutes away. A sharp, well-educated woman with impeccable manners and an unshakable conviction that her son was exceptional and had simply ended up with the wrong wife. Marina came from an ordinary family. Her parents were engineers, nothing remarkable by Margaret's standards. She never said this directly. She had other ways. A glance, a pause, a remark dropped as if by accident. "Daniel, you look so well. You must finally be getting some sleep. Or maybe you've just stopped stressing so much." It was an art form. Around Daniel's mother, he became a different person. Shoulders back, wider smile, talked more. My role was to set the table and clear the dishes while they discussed his life. In late September, Margaret announced she wanted to celebrate her 60th birthday at their place. Her apartment had just been renovated, she said, and it would be a shame to mess it up. Their home was spacious, and Marina would manage beautifully, of course. Daniel told her on Wednesday evening while she was washing dishes after dinner, casually, as if it had already been decided. She said, "Fine," because she always said fine. Saturday started at 6 a.m. She washed, chopped, cooked, arranged, wiped everything down. Daniel went out for flowers and came back 3 hours later, just as the table was nearly set.
He helps carry in the cake. That was the full extent of his contribution to the party.
About 20 guests arrived, everyone dressed up, lively, bringing gifts. Margaret beamed. Daniel gave a toast, a beautiful one, about his mother, about how she had always been his foundation. The guests applauded. Marina was going around with the appetizers. During the second toast, Daniel stood up, raised his glass, and said, lightly, almost cheerfully, addressing the room, "I'd like to thank our hostess. Though honestly, I'm not sure what there is to say. She's just doing what she's supposed to do." He laughed. A few guests laughed too, awkwardly, unsure how to react. She stood at the table with a serving dish in her hands. Just doing what she's supposed to do. 9 years, 1,000 dinners, hundreds of nights with a feverish child. Every packed school lunch, every paid bill, every ironed shirt, every night she stayed awake because someone had to stay awake. Just doing what she's supposed to do. She set the dish down on the table, slowly, then picked up her glass, turned to face the room. "You know," she said, "I'd like to add something to that toast." The room went quieter. "Daniel, you just said I'm simply doing what I'm supposed to do. I've been thinking about those words for the last few seconds, and I want to clarify something. What you see on this table, I started cooking at 5 this morning. The cake was ordered and paid for by me because you forgot. The flowers for your mother were chosen by me because you asked me to. I put Ethan to bed last night while you rested so you'd be fresh for the party. I cleaned the apartment. I made the guest list. I figured out the seating." The guests were silent. "I don't do this because I'm supposed to, Daniel. I do it because I love my family. Those are two very different things.
And I would like you to understand that someday, while there's still time." She raised her glass toward her mother-in-law. "Margaret, happy birthday. I wish you good health." She drank, set down the glass, walked to the kitchen. "What was that?" Daniel hissed, catching up with her a minute later. She answered quietly, "Nothing special. I just told the truth in front of witnesses, for the first time in 9 years." He had nothing to say. In the living room, conversation slowly resumed, carefully in low voices. Then Ethan ran into the kitchen and asked, "Mom, when's the cake?" She laughed, really laughed. Notice what just happened. Marina didn't make a scene. She didn't cry, didn't accuse, didn't humiliate him in return. She simply stated facts, calmly, in front of witnesses. That's exactly what makes moments like this so powerful, and why they either change something in a relationship or make it clear there's nothing left to change. What do you think? Did you do the right thing? Let us know in the comments. After that evening, something shifted. Not immediately, not dramatically, but it shifted. Daniel became more careful. A few times he offered to do the dishes himself. Once he picked Ethan up from school without being reminded. These were small steps, and she didn't know if they would be enough. They weren't. Not because he was a bad person, but because Marina finally allowed herself to answer honestly the question she had been avoiding for years. Am I happy? And the answer was, no. Not now. Maybe not for a long time. She filed for divorce in February. Daniel didn't believe it at first. Then he pleaded. Then he threatened that Ethan would stay with him, that she'd get nothing, that she'd regret it. Margaret called every day, sometimes several times. She said many things.
Marina stopped picking up. The proceedings wrapped up in the summer. Ethan stayed with her. That was what mattered most. Assets were divided. Daniel had to take out a loan to pay her share, and that was his choice, not hers. With that money, She rented a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Nearby, a park where she and Ethan walk in the evenings. Not far, a good school. In many Western countries, women initiate around 70% of divorces. The average age at divorce is between 35 and 40, and the most common reason given isn't conflict or betrayal, it's feeling emotionally disconnected. Behind that phrase are thousands of stories just like Marina's. Not a single dramatic moment, just exhaustion, built up over years. The first few months were hard. Then things felt different. Not easier, just different. She started noticing things she hadn't noticed before. How in the mornings there was no rush because her schedule was only hers. How she could buy something for herself just because, without first taking care of everyone else. How she could fall asleep in silence and wake up in silence. And it was good silence, not anxious silence. She signed up for Italian classes, not because it was useful for work, simply because she had always wanted to. Ethan had a lot of questions at first. Then he adjusted. Children adapt faster than we think when the adults around them are at peace. One day he asked, "Mom, are you happy?" She thought for a second. She said, "Yes." He nodded with the air of someone who had received the information he needed and went off to play. Daniel still messages sometimes. That he understands now, that he's changed, that he misses her. She reads them and doesn't reply, not out of bitterness, simply because she has nothing to add to what she said that evening in the living room. Everything had already been said.
In front of witnesses. Marina's story isn't about whether you should leave, and it isn't about whether you should stay. It's about the moment a person stops swallowing their words and starts calling things what they are. The question isn't whether she did the right thing. The question is different. Is there something in your life you've been wanting to say, but still haven't? Write it in the comments. This is a safe place to be honest.